we're heading for lunch, but just before that, Krishna Lalbiharie is going to come up and tell us, what are you going to tell us, Krishna? I should tell you, he's a specialist on Jane Austen, so I think we may be hearing some Jane Austen here.
Oh my God. Thanks for that, Terry. Aside from that, I also do spend the majority of my time employed in the service of organizations which are familiar to many of you, mostly Indigenous-led, a great number of them also concentrated in the area of refugee and newcomer rights and protection of those newcomer populations. And to that end, Auntie Shahina had asked me to come here to make a presentation regarding imaging and branding and how we can campaign in terms of posters and visuals here locally and indeed throughout Canada by developing infographics on very specific topics. The topic that Auntie had come up, by the way, she is my auntie. She's not biologically my auntie, but she happens to be my neighbor, and I've known her for 1 billion years. And I, like my mother, she's small and diminutive in stature, but she packs the wall up in what she says and what she demands of me, and I could never say no to Auntie. But she had asked me to develop an infographic on the topic of Islamophobia, which, as you know, is statistically on the rise. I mean, we've got a president in the United States that has openly advocated for a ban on Muslims, which is predicated on a lot of myths about Islam and about immigrants and refugees and terrorism and the conflation of all of those things, which is horrific and horrendous. So I work with Immigration Partnership Winnipeg alongside a number of you as a member of one of its civic engagement boards, which Lori had mentioned earlier. Actually, the acronym is ICE, but they won't let me call it that. And in that capacity, I happily developed an infographic on refugees from a Manitoba perspective, which I've put on the screen here. And what it does is it details, and by the way, if I could ask Michael and Shazad to come up here, would you mind unfurling that actual life-size poster and holding it up for me? What it does is it details principally 5 main myths about refugees in a section called Myth Busting. It also contains some important statistics which were gathered principally from UNHCR, along with some patterns of migratory patterns exhibited by refugees, and some very Syrian-specific information in respect of Manitoba and statistics therein. I was very happy to do that, and we aim at Islamic Social Services Association to do the same in respect of an infographic, but on Islamophobia. By the way, I should have began saying this by saying Nowruz Mubarak to my... There are no Persians here, are there? Okay, there is one, yes, Nowruz Mubarak. But it's the aim of the Islamic Social Services Association to produce a document similar to this, and similar in size, map size, which we will, hopefully be able to promulgate and distribute, and certainly I would think in schools, as we have done with this, and with teachers and educators specifically, and also, of course, have them for distribution with agencies for whom you all represent, or with whom you all represent. And to that end, I would like to take the last 5 minutes of this rambling narrative that I'm stringing together at the last minute by putting some of you on the spot. And of course, I will exalt the primacy of our Muslim brothers and sisters here, but I'd like to know from you what you would like to see in a Manitoba infographic on Islamophobia, because somehow between now and tomorrow, when I'm actually formally presenting on a panel, I'm going to use part of my panel presentation to show what we come up with today in an infographic similar to this. It might not be as fancy because I only have 24 hours to do this, but so if I could, and if you could just speak up from where you're sitting, boomingly if possible, so we can all hear what you'd like to see in an infographic particularly I'm asking from our Muslim members and Islamic faith adherents in the room. Anyone? Sure. Okay, that's great. Do you want to expound on that? Oh, sorry. What was asked is she would like to see in the infographic something that represents or articulates the diversity amongst Muslim peoples themselves. That they are not homogeneously defined. That there are obvious like cultural differences between them. Yeah. Excellent point. Anyone else?
Muslims aren't new in Canada.
Do you know, Auntie mentioned this to me before, and I did some research. Do you know that John Love was the first Muslim? It's funny that his name was Love, but John Love was the first Muslim, and he was here before just after Confederation. There you go. 13 years before Confederation, so that's an unknown, well, it's a known but not widely known fact there. Yes?
I would just say some myth busting around Sharia law and that fear mongering.
Perfect. So that's myth busting around Sharia law, okay? Excellent. So that's contributions by Muslim Canadians to Canada.
And that Muslims are fighting terrorism. Literally, I have family who are fighting ISIS in Mosul, Iraq.
Brilliant point. Right. Okay. I think there's a hand right there.
One of the things that should be mentioned is the Prophet Muhammad was one of the first who actually freed or was against slavery, freed slaves 1600, 1400 years ago, and that needs to be noted and known.
Okay.
I'd like to see the recognition, we were talking about diversity, but also the contribution of Muslim women. They're either portrayed as victims or they're being oppressed. So I'd like to see something recognize the contribution of women.
That's excellent.
And, the different ways that they are contributing.
I'm not Muslim, but I'd like to see a myth busting on the amount of Muslims that have been killed by ISIS, as opposed to just white people in the West.
By the way, folks, I've only got that much space. I just say it's got to be legible. This is not a dissertation, but these are great. Sorry, go on.
I'm not Muslim either, but I think it'd be good for people to see like the problems that people face because of Islamophobia and like young people, when people like all people Muslim say like the problems that they face because of Islamophobia.
Can I suggest something? Oh my God, there's my brother. Abdi is actually was my contract supervisor on this poster. So, just before I forget, I think how about some famous Muslims that folks don't know who, like not just because of their contributions, but some famous Muslims that people could identify with. Like Muhammad Ali.
I think we can have the statistics on Islamophobia. I think these widely known stats on Islamophobia, I think that people deny that this is happening.
Hate crimes, the rise of hate crimes, for sure.
collections of Muslim artists, scientists,
Brilliant.
architects throughout the centuries. What we assume is part of Western civilization, Western knowledge.
That's great. There's one more at the back, and then I just want to close it off.
Are you ready to give up your lunch to do this?
Oh, man.
I would like to see a couple of explanations of the big Muslim scary words like jihad.
Jihad? Yeah.
And, yeah, which is not really necessary. And Allah Akbar,
Okay.
because a lot of people actually don't know what it means and they freak out when they hear it. So.
Okay. I'd like to thank you all. Those are, wonderful contributions. If you want to see something else, I'll be around for most of the day. So please approach me. Again, I'm glad that things sort of ended up this way. And by ended up this way, meaning that I was at the NDP convention all weekend, and it completely exhausted me, and I worked at a crazy person, and then I had to put the program together for Shaheen at the last minute, and I was really too tired to make the infographic. So I thought, how could I spin this? Let's give it back to them, and then I will reflect that in what I make. So that worked out great. So again, thank you for your considerations here, and hopefully I'll have something pretty and powerful for you to show tomorrow. So thank you. And the poster that I make tomorrow? Oh, it is available, yeah. Oh, by the way, if you want copies of this poster, we have them here. Tomorrow we will bring them. Yes, yes. Thank you so much. Have a good lunch.